How's it going, TGR? It's Pat Mac, and we're doing power rankings for, I believe this is the Mismag division. Yeah, I did the Piplup one already. I probably, you've heard me talk in the other one about recording this one first, and that's because I did record this one first, but my mic audio was off, so yeah, I was very sad about that, because I said some great things about your teams, and had some fantastic advice. Like, I'm sure it was perfect, you know, in every single way. But we don't have any evidence to go off of that, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Anyway, we're gonna talk through the teams, of course, power rankings, whatnot. I'm mostly just talking about my thoughts on teams, not necessarily saying like this is the best or this is the worst or anything along those lines. Just here's some thoughts. This is what I think, and so on. In the background, you'll see some gameplay. I don't remember which one I'm using for this. I think I'm using the one where I played against Mismag. So he gave me some gameplay footage. We just like built two teams with like the most insane Pokemon that we could come up with from the draft. So we just used a ton of restricted ones. So anyway, huge shout out to him for throwing a team together and allowing us to record a game for y'all to watch instead of just like looking at a screen of stats and whatnot. Anyway, probably way more exciting. Okay, so anyway, let's actually start talking about some Pokemon teams. So first one, I'm just gonna go in. You know, I was about to say I was gonna go in draft order, but that's not even true because there was no draft order for this. So I'm just going in whatever the roster order is on the tab. Because yeah, if anyone is watching this that wasn't actually participating in the draft, we did a synchronous draft. So all the coaches attempted to make their pick at the same time. And there was a chance that Pokemon would kind of essentially cost more points if they were contested. And so it was kind of like a hidden bidding war. And sometimes nobody got a Pokemon that round if all of their other ones were kind of picked or like lost the bid or whatever. Anyway, on to teams. We've talked too much about the start. It's already been too long. We want to talk about teams now. All right, so first team here is the Tokyo Terrors, and I had a little bit of hand in helping to draft this team, so I'm potentially biased a little bit toward liking it. The Palkia Zacian combo, I think is really sweet. I think that those two mons together do a pretty good job of just like, I don't know, like not sharing any weaknesses, like having some good resistances that the other one has that, you know, whatever. It's cool. I think they're pretty good. And then they also have some like good mix of like both being fairly fast, but Palkia can also set Trick Room, which helps a couple other Pokemon on the team like Snorlax or Iron Hands or Exeggutor, stuff like that. So I like the combination of those two things. So they get a little bit of speed control, and then Zacian is also super fast, so like that Pokemon gives speed control just by virtue of being a very quick Pokemon, which I think is really nice. And then I think the rest of the team kind of helps out a little bit more. Like they have a good mix of physical and special offense with Palkia, Goldengo on the special side. Exeggutor as well has a fairly good special attack stat. And Salazzle's pretty solid. And then on the physical side of things, you know, you got Zacian, Iron Hands, Mamoswine, Snorlax, stuff like that. So yeah, I like the team overall. I will say I'm kind of so-so on the combination of Iron Hands and Snorlax. But having a good ghost immunity is always really nice in a format that has Calyrex. So I don't hate it. It just, those two mons kind of fill a very similar role to me, so I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I think overall it's fine. But yeah, aside from that, they have good speed control. Murkrow, obviously, with Prankster Tailwind, helps out the team a ton. It's a very good combo with Goldengo. We've seen that in the past where you just like make it rain and then haze away the drop. So like that's obviously a really sweet option as well. So yeah, a really cool team. I think it can do pretty well. Like I said, the only one that I'm kind of meh about is the Snorlax. I don't know exactly what mon I'd want instead. Maybe something that's a little more middle speed that could work in either option of being fast or slow. My team might want another special attacker, maybe. Just because like Palkia, Goldengo are probably the main ones that are coming, and so Exeggutor is going to be more defensive if it does come, and obviously not the best and greatest Pokemon, so I don't know, something like that would be something I'd be considering for the team. Alright, next one we have is the Migrating Milotics, and I also helped out with drafting this team. So yeah, I helped with the first couple of teams here. And yeah, I think the team is pretty cool. I will say that it probably leans a little bit more towards the Trick Room side of things, especially when you have Ursaluna Blood Moon and Dialga to help set Trick Room. And Arceus Ghost also does a fairly good job of setting Trick Room as well. Just being like a super bulky Pokemon, can't be hit by Fake Out, obviously helps things a ton. But they also do have some speed control with Tailwind. Again, Arceus Ghost, great option for speed control from the Tailwind side of things. Galarian Zapdos can set Tailwind. And then you also have Grimmsnarl to help with a ton of extra bulk from screens, which is really nice for the squad. And then just a good mix of like physical, special offense. I like the Fire, Water, Grass core that's here. You know, you have like Rotom Pete, which is good on the special attacking side, Iron Leaves, which is good on the physical attacking side, Blastoise, which can do either one and is great supportive option for the squad. So I like that a lot, and I think they could do pretty well. It's also kind of nice to have a Defiant Pokemon when like your first 3 months on the team don't really like to deal with Snarl very much. So having Galarian Zapdos to dissuade those Snarls, dissuade the Intimidate isn't so good against this team, but like, I don't know, if you go for a physical Arceus set, then Intimidate's obviously gonna, obviously isn't gonna be great for it. So yeah, just something to kind of keep in mind. But I like the squad overall. I think it has some good options for the team, and yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I think Grimmsnarl really kind of ties the team together. Having Prankster screens is really good. You know, just being able to mitigate some damage output, I think helps the team out a ton. Next one here is the LA Infernapes, and I did not help draft this team. I don't know if I helped draft any of their teams, so I'm just gonna stop talking about that idea now. Anyway, the 2 restricted mons I actually really like quite a bit. They don't necessarily like combo together super well in terms of like, they don't share weaknesses or resistances, or like, you know, like Rayquaza's not helping out against the ghost attacks coming out Calyrex, or the dark attacks, and like Calyrex is not helping about the ice moves coming at Rayquaza. Like, they're not helping in that sort of way, but I do like that they are helping in terms of like, one is very good for special offense and one is very good for physical offense. You know, Rayquaza technically can be mixed. It has like really good attack and special attack at 150 on both. So like, yeah, you can do both, but then I imagine that like when you look at the rest of the team, it's probably going to be physical Rayquaza for the most part, and I think it does physical really well. Like, I don't know if it has Dragon Dance. Now I'm trying to remember. I know for sure it has Sword Stance, which is fantastic, especially when you get Clefairy on your team as this 3rd pick. I think Clefairy was a fantastic Pokemon for this team. We already saw that Calyrex Shadow and Clefairy was like a pretty good combo, like on ladder in Sword Shield days. I don't know if I've seen it very much in the whatever we're in now, Scarlet Violet. Yeah, but I remember seeing it all the time in the previous format. So yeah, I love that. Being able to help with Friend Guard, to help Calyrex take the spread attacks a little bit better, just as well as having Follow Me. You know, so like, I don't know, Sucker Punch isn't a problem anymore. I guess you do have to worry about Snarl, but whatever, you know, you can figure it out. But yeah, I like that quite a bit. And then the rest of the team kind of gives a lot of other options. You know, you have a little bit of like Trick Room deterrence with like Mudstale and Appleton. You have some really solid fast options and Fake Out with like Weavile and Infernape. Suicune with an unfake-outable. Yeah, I think that's a word. We're gonna make it a word. Anyway, but you can get Tailwind up, which is really nice. So it's very reliable being able to set that. And then Magnezone, I think, just like gives you another bulky steel type, which will be fine. Yeah, so I really like the squad. I think there's a lot of setup options here, which I think is important with Clefairy. Like, if your team is almost like too fair, and not taking advantage of the follow me setup options that you can get from the partner, then you're really not doing it right. And I think this team does. So really like that. I do think the Iron Valiant was a really good pick too. You know, it gives you an offensive fairy, so that Clefairy can just be the amazing supportive defensive tool that it loves to be. Next team we have is the Flanders Flygons, and I like Palkia Origin and Zamazenta essentially for the same kind of reason that when we looked at the Palkia and Zacian combo from previously. I guess like the one downside of this duo is that they're both weak to Fairy, But then you have like a ton of other Pokemon right after it that are not weak to Fairy by any stretch of the imagination, and so I think that's really solid. The like overall weakness of Fire on the team is actually kind of nice to have. Same with Ground, because just like bring your Fire and Ground types against Palkia. That seems like a great idea. So I love actually that's kind of a weakness, and that's a good draft strategy I think in this kind of format too. Like, you know, you kind of look at overall options and kind of go like, oh, okay, well, I can bring Fire types against like Klefki, Amoonguss, Bisharp, Galvantula, but then you have to deal with like the best Pokemon on their team with Palkia Origin, and kind of the same reason for the Ground types as well. So like I like that as a draft strategy. I think that's a really good thing to have on a squad. I also love the Defiant and competitive options on this team being a lower tier with Galarian Articuno and Bisharp. Just being able to dissuade both Snarl and Intimidate is like a really good thing to have, I think, in the format. That, and I really love the like kind of bulky options, the pivots that are here for the team. You know, you get Amoonguss, Skeledirge, and Landorus Therian that all pivot fairly well. And then you get a ton of support on the team as well from like Smeargle and Klefki and Amoonguss, which I think is pretty good. It is kind of interesting to see Amoonguss and Smeargle on the same team together. I kind of think of oftentimes they're filling a similar role. Although Smeargle can kind of do anything, oftentimes you see stuff like Spore and Fake Out and Follow Me and whatnot. And Amoonguss kind of does that same thing, but just with a better stat line. I don't know. Maybe you just end up using Smeargle in a lot of different ways, but I almost think that you could maybe just drop Smeargle and get something that, at that point value, that gives you just more stuff altogether. Because it's not like the team doesn't have other supportive options, right? You have Screens, Klefki, you have Rage Powder and Spore from Amoonguss. You know, like, do you really need Smeargle? I don't know. I kind of look at the team and think I don't need it. I think I'd rather have something that like actually puts a lot of pressure on the team. I guess I don't know exactly which mon or idea or whatever thing that the team needs per se, but I don't know. I don't feel like Smeargle's it. That would just be my like small slight gripe with it, I guess. So anyway, all right, next team. We have the I always forget the name of this team. Villa Blanca Volcanoes, I think is it. Hopefully I got it right. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. But yeah, this one, so the team that's on the screen right now isn't technically their current team. They had just made some transactions, but because I happen to be recording this after they made them, like I might as well talk about the team they have now. And I do remember talking about this team, and one of the things that changed was the Arceus. It used to be Steel and now it's Electric. I actually love that swap from this team. You know, the only weakness that's on the team to Electric is the Arceus, and it has like really good offensive pressure against like water types that the team doesn't particularly deal with aside from Arceus. So yeah, I really love that. I think it's a really nice option for the squad. I wasn't a huge fan of the Steel typing. So anyway, yeah, good swap. Nice job. Yeah, but aside from the team, like Groudon really supports this team very well. It seems like it's built around Groudon, and Arceus was kind of thrown in later, even though it was the third pick for the team. But yeah, you got like double Protosis Mons, you got Solar Power, you got Chlorophyll, like multiple Chlorophyll Pokemon actually. So yeah, kind of interesting to have those. And Groudon is really the focus point of the team, and I think it does it fairly well. You know, I guess I will say that like, you know, I was about to say that Grass type kind of looks good against this team because it resists the Arceus and Groudon stabs, but then you also have to deal with, you're in Sun, right? So like you gotta deal with like the Charizard boosted moves. Walking Wake often runs a fire move as well. Groudon often runs like Heat Crash and stuff like that. Arceus has like Flare Blitz and whatnot. So yeah, actually it's kind of scary. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the Regidrago on the team when you already have Wake. Like, I don't know, what is Regidrago doing that Walking Wake isn't already doing? And I think Wake is just the better mon on the team in general. So I don't know, maybe that's something that I would consider adjusting here. But I like Jump Bluff. I think Jump Bluff really helps out the team quite a bit. You have like good Rage Powder options. I'm pretty sure it doesn't have Spore, but I think it has like Sleep Powder and Tailwind, you know, like a really fast Tailwind with Chlorophyll. Obviously helps out the squad in a general sense. I think Hitmontop is also kind of nice. You know, you get a little bit of a pivoting option. Screamtail probably pivots with that mon pretty nicely. You know, you just like, yeah, I mean, you just get like some screens, or you get Thunderwave support from Screamtail, and then you like swap it out, bring in Hitmontop, swap back out, bring in Screamtail. Like, I don't know. I think the options on the squad are kind of nice. And yeah, I do really like the Arceus Electric pickup to kind of help fight the water types that tend to do fairly well into Sun teams, I think. Yeah, so really good pickup. I like that squad a lot more than I remember liking it when I recorded my muted analysis. Anyway, all right, next team we got here is Gateway Archaludons, and oh right, okay, I remember my thoughts on this team. Let's see if I can articulate them well again the second time. So first off, the team only has Magearna, which is like one of our restricted or limited types for the draft format. And that's the only one, you know, like they're obviously really good Pokemon aside from that. You know, you have Deoxys Attack, which will hit like insanely hard at 180 on both offensive stats. And then you have Shaman Sky. Like those two Pokemon used to be also part of that like limited Pokemon. So maybe if I saw this in our previous format, I would have been like, oh wow, he got 3. That's crazy. How did we let him get away with it? But now it's like, yeah, they're okay. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the Pokemon are good, but you know, you just, there's something about, you know, like having those mons that have big base stats of like 680. Like, it's just not the same as 600. So yeah, I think that like I'd probably consider making some adjustments to find a spot for one of them. I do like Magearna quite a bit. I think it's a really good Trick Room Pokemon. And I do like that, well, actually this team does not really support Trick Room that well, does it? Like almost every other Pokemon on the team, like much prefers to be in a faster mode. And I guess Kingambit's the only one that would also like to be in a slower mode, but that also is like, it's, okay, Magearna's weak to 2 things. Fire and ground. If it's gonna be your only restricted level Pokemon here, like make it so that the rest of your team is not very weak to fire and ground. And the only other Trick Room sweeper on the team is Kingambit, which is, you guessed it, weak to fire and ground. Like, this is a problem, guys. Like, you should probably kind of think about that. And there's also triple steel types here, so like a ton of things that are weak to fire. So I don't know. I think in that side of things, like, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that. And like, even if you have Magmar and you try to use Follow Me to like redirect stuff away from Magearna, like if they send a grounded type attack coming at Magearna, like Magmar's still going to take super effective from that too. Alright, I'm starting to remember my issues with this team. Yeah, so it's like your best Pokemon on the team, just based on stats, based on history, is Magearna, but you have a ton of other Pokemon that are also weak to fire and ground. And it makes it so much harder for Magearna to really get going and make the best use of it when the other Pokemon also get hit by the same things that the team wants to bring against Magearna. So I think you want to try to look for some options that can kind of take the team in a different direction, and make things a little bit harder for teams to prep against. I think right now I look at this team and go like, I'm gonna bring like special fire and ground coverage, and then when Orthworm comes out, like it's still gonna eat a Heat Wave. Like, you know, like your Earth Eater really isn't helping you that much. So that's probably something I'd look at changing. I love Meowstic. I had it on my team last season. Prankster is like incredible on the Mon, and just like, it has an insane number of options. So I think I'd probably look at like, you know, actually I think it'd probably be Kingambit. I think like at first glance, that would be the Mon that I'd look to drop, and see if you could figure out something else to put on the team. Maybe grab a water type. Like, that seems like it's pretty good, and it's actually missing on the squad, isn't it? So yeah, I would just drop Kingambit, pick up a slow water type, like, I don't know. Clawwitzer is the first one that comes to mind, but something along those lines where it's like slow, although I guess you probably want physical. I don't know. Look at the tier list, come up with something. I don't have anything at the moment. Alright, next squad. Alright, we got the Spinechilla and Gengar here, and yeah, this team is really interesting. So they have a ton of ice and fighting weaknesses. Like, if your team brings ice and fighting coverage, you hit every Pokemon on this squad for super effective damage, except for Gothitelle. So there you go. Bring ice, fighting, and dark, and you hit everything for super effective, which is kind of wild. So it's something you got to be careful about. If you're the Spinechilla and Gengar, you got to make sure you can you can handle that. I will say that some of these Pokemon are probably not coming together. So for example, I think if you bring Dragonite, you're just not bringing Altaria. If you bring Altaria, you're just not bringing Dragonite. So like, in terms of like the 6 Pokemon that are on your team each week, like there aren't going to be that many Pokemon that are weak to, that are going to be weak to Ice. And kind of the same thing with, well, actually, with the fighting weakness is kind of pronounced, right? Like those first 3 Pokemon, Zamazenta Crowned, Incineroar, and Xianpao, like all 3 of those being weak to fighting types, and they are also like some of the higher tiered picks on the team. So yeah, bring your fighting types against this squad. Although you will have to contend with Zamazenta Crowned, which has an insanely good defense stats, and you have to deal with Intimidate from Incineroar. So I don't know, figure something out in terms of your threat, but that would be something I'd be looking at. I do really like the Sinistcha for the team though. I think Hospitality helps out the squad a ton. Being able to heal up Zamazenta Crowned or Lugia is just like a really good thing to have going. And then of course you have Rage Powder to help with the fighting type attacks that come with those first 3 that we mentioned earlier on. So yeah, I like that for the squad. I think Hospitality is really good, especially for multi-scale Lugia. Lugia really needs a lot to get going. I'm not a huge fan of the Pokemon in general, but I do really like that combination with Zamazenta Crowned. I think that like the 2 of them support each other fairly well. They don't share any weaknesses. Lugia covers the ground and fighting weakness that Zamazenta has, so yeah, really good squad there. I like that side of things. I'm not a huge fan of the like massive number of Ike's weaknesses and fighting weaknesses, but if you can make it work, then maybe it's not a big deal. I guess Altaria is mostly on the team as a Cloud 9 Pokemon, so like maybe in the weather matchups, you just bring Altaria and you don't bring Dragonite. That's probably fine. I'm sure you can make it work. Alright, next squad we have is the, I forget how many X's are in this name, but then it's attack. I think it's 4 of them. Anyway, I like the combination that are here, the Necrozma and the Miraidon. They do technically share a ground weakness, and I'm not a huge fan of having my restricted duos share any kind of weaknesses, but that's really the only one, you know? The other weaknesses that either one of them has, the other resists, you know? So like the fire weakness that Necrozma has, resisted. The, I guess the ghost and the dark aren't resisted by Miraidon, but Necrozma takes care of the other weaknesses that Miraidon has with Dragon, Fairy, and Ice. So that's kind of nice. I think the ground weakness being there as like the main thing going against this team isn't too big of a deal. And yeah, actually, is ground really good against this team? Let's see. Actually, you have Urshifu Rapid Strike, which is a huge deterrent to ground types. I kind of wish there was a better grass type. Like if this Magmortar was like, I don't know, a grass type with like Rage Powder instead of Magmortar, like I kind of like the team a lot actually. But you're not really redirecting a ton of stuff. Kind of a similar problem that we talked about with Magearna earlier with Magmar. Like if someone's sending a ground type attack at Miraidon, it's still gonna hit Magmortar for super effective. And same with the Necrozma Dustmane. So I don't know if Magmortar in terms of Follow Me is doing as much as it could on a different kind of team. Aside from that, I think the squad is cool. You have really good speed control. I like Illumise, and for Graph, you get a fast and a slow mode. Being able to set up Trick Room for Necrozma and Dustmane is good, and the Pokemon is like quick enough that you can also do Tailwind with it, which is really nice. There's a really good mix of physical and special offense here. Necrozma and Miraidon are mixed in terms of like one being physical, one's being special. You then have Urshifu and Lando. Again, one physical, one special. And I like the other options that are here too, like Scraggy gives you a little bit of Intimidate and like Fake Out support, which is good. Fergraph also discourages, priority from coming against the team, so I like that quite a bit as well. But yeah, overall, I'd say the team is pretty sweet. I don't know for sure what I would change. I think it's just the Magmortar is the one that feels a little off to me, but I also know that they had Magmortar last season and absolutely loved it, so there's probably a little bit of that coming in here too, but I don't like it as much for this team. I think a better grass type aside from Gravel, like if you switch to have a higher tier grass and a lower tier fire, I'd kind of like that a little bit more, I think. overall, team is great. I love a lot of what they have going on, and they hit a lot of things that I think you need in this format. Next team we have is the Brooklyn Paradox, and yeah, sweet team. Kyogre, Zacian crowned. Absolutely love that combination. I actually just finished my write-up today on my winning season with those two Pokemon, and yeah, they just do a ton of work for each other. You know, like the resistances that one has, the other covers, and yeah. Anyway, fantastic pairing of Pokemon. Yeah, really the team supports, like Kyogre I think supports Zacian Crown more so than Crown supporting Kyogre, but you know, either way, really good combination of Pokemon. Ogerpon being on the team and being able to be any form is really nice. You could go for the water type form and have like, I think Kyogre has Surf, so you could do like a Surf kind of healing strat with your own Ogerpon, which would be kind of cool, plus you get the rain boosted cudgels. But then you can also kind of go for the fire or the just the grass with the Defiant is nice here too. So being able to get some redirection I think actually really helps out the squad in general. Yeah, great combination of Pokemon. I guess there's really kind of like 6 Pokemon this team. 7 counting Riolu is the other one that I would count on the team. The other 3 I just don't. Like, I wouldn't bother prepping for. Riolu can give you some cool stuff, you know, if you have... Like, it also has Prankster Rain Dance, so you could have, like, Riolu next to Basculegion Female and, like, kind of get something going there. As well as having Archaludon to do some good stuff. But yeah, I'd be, oh, you know, it is what it is in drafting with this format, and he probably paid extra for Kyogre and Zacian. I'm not looking at that side of thing. But yeah, being able to set up Rain is really nice. I like Riolu to be able to give coaching as well. Imagine coaching on Ogerpon as it Terras and then goes for its Ivy Cudgel and gets a crit. Oh my god. Oh, could you imagine? Oh, okay, here's the play. Alright, you Spiky Shield turn 1 with Ogerpon, your Covert Cloak Riolu coachings it as they try to get Fake Out going on Ogerpon. Beautiful, right? Amazing first turn 1. Then your Ogerpon that's Fire Terra fires while you go for Sunny Day on Riolu, and you go insane, right? Like, you're at +2. It's like you've had a Sword Stance, and you have Sun, and you get a crit. Oh my god, I love it. I love it already. Amazing team. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic. All right, next squad. We have the Pembroke Palafins here, and okay, so this one's kind of interesting. I think I like the combination of Koraidon and Solgaleo. I think in a general sense, like, if you just look at their typing, the two Pokemon work really nicely together, right? Like, whatever resistances or weaknesses one has, the other covers it. I think there's like maybe only one. Yeah, it's like only Solgaleo being weak to ground, Koraidon doesn't cover, but everything else. Oh, and Ghost from Solgaleo. Whatever. Anyway, they cover each other really nicely. The only part I'm not a huge fan of is I don't know if I like having my my second restricted. Well, another. How do I want to put this? I don't want my restricted in Sun to be a Steel type. That's just, you know, you're like trying to set it up to be. You make it worse. I don't know. I'm struggling so hard with this. Anyway, you make it worse with Solgaleo because you have Sun. So like that's something I'd be a little concerned about. But the team also has a lot of good things that they can work outside of Sun. You know, you have Tornadus, you have Flutter to work in Sun as well. So yeah, like a lot of the team really works nicely, and I think the team overall is really good. Solgaleo is the only one that like kind of feels a little bit out of place to me, but of course it does really nicely with the typings of what Koraidon is weak to, and they resist and help each other out. They are also both physical, so like I think there's a lot of pressure on Flutter main and Tornadus to put a lot of special offense out there. After that, there's not the hugest of special offensive threats, so that's something to be aware of. Entei can run special sets, but it's just not the best. You'd much rather run like Sacred Fire to get some burns and stuff like that. And yeah, I think the team overall is really cool. You have good options for I guess you have more of like Trick Room denial options with like Weirdeer and Torterra. You know, like if someone tries to set Trick Room against you, then you can kind of handle it. But in a general sense, I'd probably be looking to go Tailwind with this team more often than not. But they do have good speed control. Tornadus is obviously amazing. And then Fluttermane could also have like fast icy winds from the photosynthesis boost. So yeah, cool team. I like it. Next team we have here has the restricted pairing of Lunala and Dialga Origin. I do like those two Pokemon together. My only kind of downside or like knock against it is that the both Pokemon are special attackers, you know, so kind of on the same one where the previous team was like had both physical attackers. This one has both special. However, they work just fine together. I like the combination of having, or the other supportive pieces on the team with Chi-Yu and Rillaboom. Rillaboom really helps to support the Dialga Origin, I think, really nicely. So like between Rillaboom, Dialga Origin, and Lunala, those three Pokemon I think work really nicely together in terms of supporting Dialga, which is really cool. And then Chi-Yu also supports the Lunala and the Dialga just by the virtue of having Beads of Ruin. Making their Pokemon take more from your special attacker seems like a pretty good place to be. But I also love that the rest of the team moves away from the special attacking side, right? Like, really, it's just Lunala and Dialga Origin taking advantage of Beads of Ruin. And I guess DNC to some extent as well. But then after that, you have a ton of physical threats, right? You got Rillaboom, you have Sneasler, you have Ursaluna. So you have a ton of physical offense on the squad. And then you also have ways to take advantage of the potential option to set Trick Room, since both Lunala and Dialga Origin have that, in Ursaluna. Ursaluna obviously does amazing well in Trick Room. So yeah, pretty cool. Having some redirection with Electabuzz is also kind of nice. So I think that that's a good thing to have on the squad. I will say there isn't I guess, do we have Tailwind? I'm not even sure if there's Tailwind on the team. Maybe Lunala has it. Lunala might have Tailwind. Lunala has like a ton of coverage, so it might actually have Tailwind. So there might be Tailwind on this team, but it's not the most amazing setter. Well, is it? It's probably really good, actually. Shadow Shield means that you're probably taking a double up. Obviously, Ghost typing means you can't get hit by Fake Out. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on for this team, and I think that they could probably fit in fast or slow modes, although I often imagine... You know what? I was gonna say they'd often want to go slow, but I'm not even sure if that's true, right? You have Sneasler, you have Chi-Yu that are a little bit quicker. Yeah, and the other two and the restricteds are like pretty good mid-speed mons, so they could go either faster or slow. Yeah, I think it's good. I think there's a lot of cool things to love about this team, and it's not the easiest to prep for. It should be interesting, and I think that the team could do pretty well. All right, next squad we have. Actually, this is the last squad. Is the Tennessee Talonflames, and I like what they have going on. I guess, well, let me think about this for a second. You have Terapagos, and I talked about this in the other video, but let me go and talk about it here. So Terapagos, in a game or in a format that has 3 Terra for every Pokemon, Terapagos is one of those Pokemon that it's just greedy for Terra. You know, it's just not worth the point value that you get it at if you don't Terra them on. And so that's something that, in a general sense, like after you draft Terapagos, I look at like, can the rest of the team do really well without Terra? And yes and no is kind of how I feel about it. So Calyrex Ice, I think, is also potentially greedy for Terra. You notice Ice typing isn't great. And so, yeah, I mean, it kind of a mon is that I feel like it would want Terra. But after that, does anything else? I guess Volcarona. Volcarona really loves Terra. So there's a couple mons on the team that that would really prefer to have Terra on their squad. I do like the support for Calyrex though, right? You've got Whimsicott and Raging Bolt. Something to deal with the water types that Calyrex Ice doesn't want to deal with is really good for the team. Being able to set up Trick Room or Tailwind is really good with Whimsicott. So you have both of those options for speed control. And then Volcarona. Ooh, actually I really love Volcarona for this team. You know, the more I think about it, the more... Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's not so bad. But yeah, so Volcarona, having Rage Powder is obviously amazing. You don't really want to bring Grass types against this team at all. Bringing Grass typing or Grass Terras against a Calyrex Ice just doesn't seem like the place that you want to be. So having Volcarona with Rage Powder seems really good. I like the option of Raging Bolt on the squad to pressure water types as well. Yeah, also seems really nice. And then Steel types. So I feel like Water and Steel are the main 2 types that you don't want to deal with your Glacial Lance. So having ways of pressuring those is good. So Raging Bolt can do that to pressure the waters. Volcarona pressures the steels. And then Terrapagos of Butera pressures everything. So I don't know, maybe it's fine. Yeah, I think the team is pretty cool overall though. Like you have options to go fast, you have options to go slow. You have ways of hitting the steel types that Calyrex doesn't want to deal with. You have ways of hitting grass types that it doesn't want to deal with. And then Terrapagos with Terra just kind of hits everything. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. Cool team. And actually all the teams that we saw during all the teams that we saw for this division are pretty good. There's a couple I think that I was kind of like a meh or iffy on. I remember the I don't remember the name of the team now. The Magirna team. That's probably the one that I would probably consider making several changes to. At least one, maybe a couple. But aside from that, the teams look really cool. I'm really excited to see how the division goes. We are technically 2 weeks in as of my recording time for this. It's been a time. I was away for vacation, and then when I got back, I have just been like crazy jet lagged. But we got it done, and these are the squads. So if you're not already in TGR, then definitely check out in the description below and hop on over, and you can see how the teams do. We have several of these coaches that record or post videos, so if you want to follow along with this season, just keep an eye on the TGR content channel, and you will see many games. Anyway, that's it from me. I'm going to sign off here, and let me know which team you like the most. Yeah. Alright, anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.